Hey everyone, so welcome to my next kind of blog on schooling and stuff. And what I'm talking about today, actually, now we're going to get into, I think, what a lot of people want to know about what's in the classes, what's involved, and also kind of like how COVID had played on some of those. So, the first semester, I'm going to talk about the first semester because I just finished the second. I'll talk about that another time. There was 7 classes for the first semester. Um, I'll talk about 4 now, and I'll talk about 3 in another video, just so it's not like too much. But for the 4 classes, 1 is actually not automotive related at all. The other 6 are. Um, and the one that was non-automotive, let's talk about that first, and that's college communications 1. Well, this one is kind of interesting because my understanding is pre-COVID, they actually had all the students go into a room and you had to write this kind of, I guess, aptitude test or something like that. And based on that test, and it's like essays and questions and all about English and all sort of stuff, various aspects. And then based on the results of that test, 1 or 3 determinations are made. First, do you need to do any upgrading courses before you get into college? So let's say I had failed it for whatever reason, I'd have to go and do upgrades, and then I could have started my automotive program. Uh, Number 2, you can get put right into college communications 1 and go about it as normal. Or 3, if you do excel in it, you'll actually get bypassed college communication 1 right into college communication 2 in semester 2, which is what happened with me. I mean, I'm proud of that, honestly. I did all the essay work and all that sort of stuff, and came back that I didn't have to do that. So I actually had 6 courses in semester 1. So let's talk about some of the automotive stuff. So first, I actually had electrical fundamentals, and so this semester was kind of interesting because a lot of it's just introductions and stuff. And so, because I've done far more advanced work, some of this stuff is more basic and not boring. I actually had a great time in the class, but it's all a lot of stuff I knew. So fundamentals is all about like Ohm's law and figuring out the formulas for voltage and amperage and resistance and things like that. And if anyone hasn't seen it, I mean, the basic kind of thing they use is kind of a triangle, and you divide that, and then there's voltages on top and amperage and resistance. And if you want to figure out amperage, you go voltage divided by resistance. That's your amperage. If you want to figure out resistance, voltage divided by amperage is resistance. And if you want voltage, it's amperage times resistance. Some of that will be off for some people. They won't know what I mean by resistance and things like that. If you want to know about that stuff, maybe I can make another video for you and explain the fundamentals of electronics and how it works. That's something I had to learn really early on to diagnose, electrical problems on cars, even the early cars. You have to know that stuff. And even I actually started my early days in automotive when I first actually built a lot of audio systems and stuff like that. Did like custom lightings and stuff all on the interior before that was even a big thing. One of the first things I kind of started doing in my area. And so you have to know those fundamentals to do that. Otherwise, you can melt something or put the wrong fuse in or something. So, that was all it was. That was actually, there was an interesting part to that, though, because that course was 90% online. But one day every 2 weeks, you got to go into the school. And they had these circuit board testers. I'll see if I can get a picture here. If there's no picture, I wasn't able to find one. I'm hoping I can get one for you here. It was basically, you can, kind of set, different circuits. They had different things like a light bulb. They had a little motor. They had a switch. They have different resistors. They have all sorts of different bulbs, turn signal bulbs, 194 peanut bulbs. And you get to kind of run a power source and a ground and kind of set up. So that was kind of fun, actually. So, but it's all basic stuff. You're not really getting into the nitty gritty of relays and circuitry and wire gauge and all sorts of stuff. This is just like the fundamentals. Another class I'll talk about actually is measurements and calculations. And this was just to get another it was a great course. Oh, someone's rocking some music over here. I'll ignore that. So anyways, it was a pretty good course. It's all measurements, calculations. It's about just as it is, right? It's just figuring out things like calculating the basics of the diameter for, like, if you have to measure a rotor, circumference, length, width. I mean, a lot of kind of basic sort of stuff. but stuff that you need to know if you're going to be checking, run out on your rotor, or you're going to be checking, the how much tread you have left on your tire, things like that. So it's just covering like how to do the calculations and the measurements and stuff. This class completely online. I didn't go in. There was no in class whatsoever. Everything was kind of Zoom, all of it, right? So, that was interesting. But I also feel like that's a course you could do online. Like there wasn't a lot of stuff I actually needed to physically touch and do. All of it's math, and then if there was worksheets, I would have done the worksheets in class, or I could have done it at home. So actually, that wasn't too bad. The final class I'll talk about for this video is actually a new class they have brought in. Kind of makes sense. It's called Fluid Power, and this was all about pneumatic and hydraulic systems. So air systems and hydraulic systems, like what you see for your brakes and stuff, and how it works, how these systems build up pressure, things like Pascal's law, I guess, and how to do calculations, and if you run this diameter hose, how much pressure would you build up, and et cetera, et cetera. This class actually was kind of, I don't want to say a letdown. It wasn't. The professor was great and all, but it was a new thing. Apparently, it was something they're just doing for the first time, and so they had never done a class that focused on fluids. So there wasn't actually a lot of material. We got to take apart some motors. There's different types of pumps, I should say, not motors. So there's like vane type pumps and different types of pumps that we worked with. We got to test out getting air bubbles in the system and things like that. And also if there's a pinch in a line and how that affects the system. We actually got a machine set up where we can kind of play with that real time. Also, to explain, this class had actually no real online component at all. There's no online, and it was just one class every 2 weeks. So this was like a base class. Like no online at all. Basically no theory. The theory was done in class, and then you did a little bit of practical in class, but there actually was very little reason to be in class, to be honest with you. What's cool, I'll see again if I get a picture here. I hope I could get a picture. They actually did have a hydraulic device. You actually had to set up your own hydraulic systems to run like a piston back and forth and figure out all that sort of stuff. You had to run it correctly, pull fluid from the reservoir, be able to control it with a switch. And that's actually important because, for cars and stuff like that, especially when you're working with brake systems, it's good, and power steering systems and stuff, it's good to know hydraulics and how it works, because if you understand how a pinch works and air in the system, and how that can create aeration, can create, loss of pressure in a system, then you can understand your brakes better. So, that's kind of like the first 4 classes. Unfortunately, one of them, the English one, I actually don't know what's involved because I bypassed that one. But I had the other 3. Very happy with that sort of stuff. I'll talk about the other 3 after. It was actually a little more fun, the other 3. But, that's kind of what we saw in the first part of semester 1. If anyone's interested, that's what you're kind of looking at. If you have questions, if you're interested in becoming a mechanic and you have questions on these classes anymore, leave it in the comments and whatever like that. I will answer any questions you have. But other than that, I will see you all in the next video.